Hello, everyone. I thought I'd start with some good news because the rest of it is frankly kind of shit. So, Ukrainians destroyed kind of a lot of these. And as you can see, the price tag on the air defense systems is very steep. What's ironic about all of this is that most of them were destroyed by Ukrainian drones. The very things that these air defense systems are supposed to protect against. In this best tradition of the Russian media, I'm going to say Russian air defense system destroys Ukrainian drone, because that's perfectly true. The drone was destroyed. Now, the fact that it took a $10 million war toy with it, yeah, that's secondary, right? On to the serious stuff. And this is indeed serious. So, winter is coming. And once again, the concern in Ukraine is the grid. How are people going to stay warm? How are people going to survive? And remember, this is their third wartime winter. So, predictably, Russia is targeting everything they possibly can. In this particular case, they went wide. So, they launched 120 missiles and 90 drones. The attacks caused significant damage to the thermal energy plants, and emergency blackouts were announced in 3 regions. That last bit, we're going to talk about this in a minute, about Poland scrambling its fighter jets as missiles actually reached western Ukraine. Going back to the attack, as far as we know right now, 7 people were killed, and the blackouts affected Dnipropetrovsk, Lviv, Odessa, and Mykolaiv region. So, targeting of the energy infrastructure is nothing new. But once again, Russia is going to insist that they don't target civilian targets. What do you call this? Especially since such attacks are usually accompanied by joyous articles from Russian media and joyous reports saying, well, if we can't, just shoot them all, we'll just freeze them out. Once again, nothing new. They may as well be reusing their headlines from last year. In addition, in Odessa, war supply was interrupted, and people were queuing up for water. Living in the area heavily impacted by Hurricane Helene, this is something I can very much relate to, because some of the areas were basically left without water for a while, and then without drinking water. To some of the areas where they're just finally restoring the potable water supply. So this is very relatable. It's one thing knowing that you'll eventually have it restored in a few weeks, and it's another thing when there is no end in sight. Ukraine did respond with the drone strikes of its own, in addition to the one that destroyed that particular air defense system we talked about earlier. It did turn on military targets in the Belgorod and Kursk regions. We talked about, the Russian border regions. Once again, if you want to see where it's at, pull up a map and see, where they are. And again, they're right there. And considering that they're routinely used by Russia as a launch point to get them closer to Ukraine, as far as I'm concerned, they're fair game. The border regions of Russia along the border with Ukraine have been turned into basically one gigantic military base. So, if civilians haven't gotten out there already, they should, if it hadn't sunk in yet. And a reminder to all, the full-scale invasion has been now going on for 1,000 days. Now, let's not forget that That is on top of the annexation of Crimea and the incursion of Russian militants into Ukraine's east that began in 2014. So this is on top of that. And Poland, which had to scramble its fighter jets today because it saw missiles flying at it, has every right to be concerned. We talked about this before. Again, if you look at the maps, if you look at the occupied territory, you can see that if Russians start using the occupied territory as their launch point, it removes a lot of limitations for them. So, a lot more of Western Ukraine becomes accessible to them. And Western Ukraine, for example, the city of Lviv, where people were killed last night, used to be a safe haven for people fleeing the war-torn areas. So now it's officially not safe anywhere in Ukraine. And what's next? Poland. It's right there. I think I showed you maps and showed you how close it is from Lviv into the nearest border town in Poland. I think it's less than a couple of hours. You can drive there. So, yes, Poland has every reason to be concerned. And as the destruction continues, and as Ukraine's staunch allies like Poland, like the Baltic states, like Finland, continue speaking out, unfortunately, the rest of the world is still not getting it. And unfortunately, I think what it's going to take is literally something getting hit inside the EU territory. Something in Poland, something in Romania, or somewhere there. And for something to actually get destroyed and for people to get killed, for it to finally sink in. And it's sad because it shouldn't have to come to this. It should have been obvious that it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when for this war to come to Europe. But apparently, regrettably, they're still waiting.